The presentation I have for you is called From Problem to Program, Engaging Parents to Protect Their Kids from the Harms of Pornography. And I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen with you. So just to give you a little context about Culture Reframed, we envision a world based on equality, empathy, free from the harms of hypersexualized media and porn culture. And our mission, the way we go about that, is that we raise awareness and provide education and resources to build resilience and resistance in young people to hypersexualized media and porn culture. And I'm going to be talking to you today about how we do that. We have always been a multidisciplinary and collaborative organization from our very beginnings to today. And initially, when we were really looking at the way Culture Reframed as an organization could contribute to this space, we brought together experts from across the country from a range of different disciplines. And these are some folks who we engaged in this conversation about what would Culture Reframed be, what would be the contribution that we could make. And the consensus from those conversations was that we needed to look at this issue of pornography as a public health issue. So what does it mean for us to take a public health approach, or how do we think about that in this context? Well, first of all, we recognize that it's not just an individual problem. It's not even a family problem. It is a societal problem. It is a cultural problem. What Dr. Gail Dines, who's the founder of the organization, likes to say is that asking kids not to see porn or look at porn is like asking your kid not to breathe polluted air. It is just in our culture, and we need to address it as a societal problem. We also looked at young people and said, okay, who are the people who are interacting with youth? Educators, parents, mental health, medical, legal professionals, community leaders, youth and family advocates, activists, and there are others, of course. But we really wanted to make sure that we were centering youth in this conversation. The other thing about a public health approach or perspective, there are 4 different pieces of it. You define the problem, you identify risk and protective factors, you develop and evaluate solutions, and then you ensure widespread distribution of those solutions. In terms of protective factors, we looked at 3 in particular: parents, educators, and medical professionals. Now, we started with parents. Why did we do that? Because research across multiple disciplines reveals that the most important protective factor for ensuring that children and youth grow into healthy and robust adults is knowledgeable, skilled, and confident parents and adults who are influential in teens' lives. Evidence from other public health programs indicates that when parents have the knowledge, skills, and confidence to engage in conversations with their children, there's a significant reduction in risky behavior among youth. So that's where we have decided to start. Parents don't really want to know this information, and there are a whole lot, that's a whole separate presentation, but they need to know this information. In fact, we all need to know. And what is it that we need to know? We need to know what porn really is. Everyone, I think, on this call knows what porn really is about and what it is these days, why it matters, when parents and other adults should talk to kids about this issue, how to talk to kids about it, and what on earth to say. So we often joke about, or not really joke, but we often talk about how parents are sort of, they're like, what do I do? Do I phone a friend? Well, of course not, because a friend is in the same place that you are, unless you're in the sector like we are. And so what we decided to do was create comprehensive free online programs for parents to help them raise porn resilient kids. This is from our website. All of our programs are totally free, easy to navigate, and I'm going to give you a little sense of what they're about. So we've created 2 programs, a program for parents of tweens and a program for parents of teens. just to give you a little taste of each of these programs. The Parents of Tweens program, some sample topics: boundaries, consent, and privacy, managing technology, navigating online and offline friendships, masturbation, fantasy, and porn, and leading discussions skillfully. The program for parents of teens, which is newer than our program for parents of tweens. We just launched the program for parents of teens, so we're very excited about that. It's divided into 4 different sections. One is on foundational concepts of developing teens. The second one is growing up in a culture of hypersexualized media and porn. The third is porn, safety, and the law. And the 4th section is building your teen's resilience and resistance. And within that, some sample topics: physical, emotional, and cognitive development of teens, helping people to understand what development is like for that age group, what they're going through, healthy relationships, toxic masculinity, sexting and the digital footprint, which is increasingly important, and connections between predators, human trafficking, and safety. All of the programs, both of our programs, have different modules so that you can start in different places. They're categorized in different ways. The programs are research-based, they are user-friendly. There's a lot of multimedia with dynamic lessons, conversations with experts. There are embedded videos that people really love. They're interactive. And they're flexible for varied levels of engagement, so that someone can spend 5 or 10 minutes on our program. They can say, okay, I've got this one issue and I'm just going to go to this module, and that's what I need to learn about sexting really fast because I just found out that my kid was sexting or something like that, or a friend was sexting. Or people can start from the beginning and go right to the end and spend hours in the program. It really depends on what people's needs are, but we've tried to make it really flexible to meet different needs. We also have enrichment sections, and this is really exciting because within our program, you can go to lots of different, click on a lot of different links and go down different paths. Our enrichment sections are for people who really want to delve deeply into some particular areas. One is porn in the brain, that's accessible now. The other ones that we're working on and that will be up this year, we have all things tech. We're working on that right now. Intervention and recovery, also in process. And by the end of this year, we're really excited about a new enrichment: sex education through the lens of critical porn literacy. What we all know is that most kids today are getting their sex education from the pornography industry, which is terrible in many different ways. But we also know that sex education typically ignores porn. And when kids are exposed to porn and they're not getting that information with a critical lens from in their sex ed classes, that's something that we really want to address. Parents always say, but what do I say and how do I say it? So one of the things that we're really proud of in our program is our conversation scripts. We're proud of the whole program and we think it's phenomenal. But one of the things that we really think is stellar is the conversation scripts. This is our compose ourself model. So we often hear people say, well, my kid was watching something, or I walked in on them and I realized that they had seen something, or I was on their computer and realized that they had seen a site. We really, really, really stress over and over again that parents should not shame or blame their children, and they shouldn't shame and blame themselves either. So we have this compose yourself model, because if you find out that your kid has been watching porn or is watching porn, whatever it is, it's easy to panic. We just have this little toolkit. Sometimes I think about how we should make them into little cards that people can stick in their own pocket or in their own wallet so they know exactly where to go, post it on the refrigerator or whatever, so that they can think through how to engage with their child when they find out something that they need to address. So this is our compose yourself model. It's on our website. And then you can go to the conversation scripts. This set of conversation scripts is from our program for parents of tweens. And it literally, you just click on one of these topics and you can see how a conversation might go with a tween. Obviously, there are different conversation topics for, or different scripts for the teen, age appropriate. Again, our approach to developing these programs has been multidisciplinary and collaborative. We have expert consultants who contributed to the material, drawn from the fields of pediatrics, developmental psychology, neuroscience, parent education programs, sex education, adolescent therapy, sociology, and more. You can actually check out our page of contributors on our parents program website. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the challenges of getting this program out to more parents. One of the challenges is that this issue of pornography is too controversial to talk about for a lot of organizations. And so when we try to connect with other organizations to say, hey, share this with your parents, a lot of organizations are just a little worried about bringing this issue up, right? And I think a lot of people probably on this call today have experienced that. So that's one thing we're really trying to address. We want it to become normal to talk about the harms of pornography. We don't want it to become normal to talk about pornography but pornography as an industry and as a harmful industry. There are a couple of myths out there. One of them is that the not my kid myth, right? My kid would never watch porn. And we're always talking to people about the accessibility. It's not about whether your kid is a good kid or a bad kid. This is not about even doing something bad. Often kids get exposed to this accidentally, or a friend shows them. You know, the porn industry, as we know, is targeting kids. So parents vastly underestimate both whether their kid is watching porn and what they're seeing on porn. The other myth is that the porn isn't that bad. I don't need to go into that here. We all know how bad it is, but that is something that parents and others just consistently come back to. Well, it's not that bad. There's also the porn is sex positive myth, which we run into a lot, where people say, well, if you're anti-porn, you are sex negative. And we have not quite figured out how to counter that message. We really believe that you cannot be pro-porn and sex positive. It's just not possible from the framework we're looking at this with. So, but that is a real issue that we are faced with. The other thing in terms of getting parents to engage with some of this work is a sense of isolation and shame, because people think it is just them, it's just their family, it's just their kid, or they don't want to admit that their kid is has been exposed to porn, or has been using porn, or has developed habitual use. This is just something that we're trying to overcome, is this sense of isolation and shame, and the stigma around it, really. So that's one of the things in terms of distribution of our program that we're faced with, sort of overcoming that issue. Responses and solutions to some of these challenges. Again, going back to our mission, it's public relations and consciousness raising, making it more normal to talk about these issues. Continuing to expand the program to professionals. This is kind of the next frontier for us. We are working on developing programs that go beyond parents and working with professionals, are geared toward or targeted toward helping professionals address this issue in their context. And that goes back to that slide that I shared earlier, where we had young people at the center and we were looking at all these different circles, people interacting with young people. And that is a really central part of the way we think about public health. And then there are some programmatic adjustments and enhancements that we're really looking at specifically to address this sense of isolation and shame. bringing parent groups together to work through a program together, to provide support. And now with people so much more comfortable with virtual meetings and activities and doing that, I think there's actually some space that's opened up for us to look at how we can create some learning circles, parenting, learning parenting pods, whatever we want to call them, essentially book clubs around our parents program, so that people are learning together and we're creating some support around it, some peer support. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here with me. I encourage you to email us info@culturereframed.org if you have any questions, and our website, www.culturereframed.org.